Cool, awesome. Well, my name's Ray Longwood. I'm from the Vineyard in Long Island, New York. We're located in Rockville Center. We also have a site in Limbrook. Um, but the big thing about the church is it's located right smack dab in this bustling town called Rockville Center. Tons of restaurants. It's pretty much has a high annual income per household. It's wealthy people, upper middle class. Um, but there's this place right outside of our church. It is a movie theater, and for years this has been the place where kids hang out, they smoke, they drink, they party, and literally it's about 20 or 30 feet from our side door to our church. And for years, as long as the church has been there, they've always noticed that there's been this crowd of kids that have congregated there, and they've said, we've got to reach these kids or these people, but they really, don't have the know-how, or it was always kind of, how could a 40, 50-year-old adult approach a kid that's in need, that's out smoking and drinking, it'd be weird. So, I was presented with that challenge, and I prayed about it and felt like this is what, God placed me here for, is to reach out to those kids. And so a few months after I'd been there, I was walking from a restaurant with the worship pastor, and, he knew about the kids too. He was there for years before I came, and they were out there smoking and drinking and whatever. And I said to him, I was like, let's just introduce ourselves to him. He's like, well, what are we going to say? Tell them our names. So we go over, we say, what's up? And they kind of look at us like, what do you want? And we're like, we've seen you guys out here from time to time. We just want to say what's up and say hi. And they're like, well, what do you want from us? Do you want something? Like, you want to buy something or whatever? And literally I could see their eyes kind of turning away, thinking that we're the cops. So the first exchange was awkward. It really was awkward. Here's this big black bald guy, skinny white dude approaching these teenagers. Definitely has a cop Miami Vice kind of feel to it. So, but we were persistent. We saw them out there again, and they recognized us from the first time that we engaged them, and so now the ice was kind of broken. They asked us if we were detectives. We told them no. Of course, if you're really a detective, you're not going to answer that. But anyway, just this cool thing started happening. We got to know their names, and we started to develop a little thing. So that went on for a few weeks. We'd see them during the week, say hi to them. And there was one Thursday night when we were going to get ready to have youth group. And all of those kids, there's probably about 40 of those kids out there. And there's this driveway. There's our church, a driveway, then the fence, and then the movie theater where the kids would hang out. So this fence kind of stood in between us. And kids would always say, the fence. Let's meet at the fence. But anyway, there's this side door to our church where literally all the youth group kids enter. But it was left open, and we were about to start youth group one night. And I saw all those kids out there. You could smell the pot. You could smell all the stuff going on. And I just came to this point where it's like, am I getting ready to shut the door on our church just so we can have youth group? When then there's kids out there that need to hear the same thing, but maybe aren't ready to hear it. But how can we get involved in their lives? And so I remember just looking at my leaders and saying, like, all right, we got to do something. So we just ordered a bunch of pizza and had our kids go out and go over and bring them pizza. And of course you could understand that weird exchange, like, what are you doing? Why are you bringing pizza over here? And I was a little concerned too, because obviously I was putting these church kids into this situation with all these other kids. But at the same time, it's like, that's what we're called to do. We're not called to just be in the church and just do our own thing. We need to reach out to those people in need. So I was prepared to hear it from the parents. I was prepared to hear the whole thing. But I knew it was a risk, and I knew it was a move of the Holy Spirit, what we were doing. And so we went over there, offered pizza. It was weird because they're trying to exchange pizza over this fence through the holes and fold it. And we're like, guys, let's just go over there. So we went over to where they were at and just engaged. My wife had this conversation with this one girl. Her name's Lauren. And, she said, well, why are you guys bringing us pizza? And my wife said, well, why not? And she said, why are you caring about us? No one cares about us. And my wife was like, that's unfortunate. I mean, why shouldn't anyone care about you? And she said, because we do bad things. And my wife was like, we do bad things too. Just because we're in church doesn't mean that we don't do bad things. We're all the same. We just deal with our issues differently. And Lauren looked at my wife and I and said, all right, cool. Grabbed a slice of pizza. And that connection began. And so this thing started happening with our youth group and these kids. And over the next few months, we started having these barbecues where we'd have, close to 100 kids show up in the neighborhood, and it was awkward. But they knew that we were going to give them free food. They had the munchies anyway. So we capitalized on that. But it was just get to know the kids and let them know that we're just here. We're here in the community. We're not trying to push anything on them. We just want them to know that there's a place where they can come and be okay. And no matter where the background they're from or what issue they're dealing with, we're meeting on this common ground with a burger and a hot dog. And so that happened. And we got to know these kids. We got to know their parents. And then May of last year, one of the kids that we first met in that group, when we first went out there that thought we were detectives, he died of an overdose on heroin. And, it rocked the community. And we were able to hold a memorial service in our church for this kid. And over 120, 130 kids from the community filled our church. And, we were able to talk to them about really what we're there for. But it was just a beautiful thing that started to happen in the community that woke the kids up. And at the same time, there's this grieving family. And so, we did the funeral and everything for this family and really got to know them really well. And so that was a devastating thing. And then a few months after that, another girl named Lauren, the one that my wife met, she was murdered literally a mile from our church. And so this happened. These two deaths occurred literally 2 months from each other. So there was another ripple effect. And we were asked to do the funeral and the burial for that as well. And, I came to a point where I was like, I didn't sign up for this. Felt in my heart that I need to reach out to these kids, but I never thought that I'd be doing any one of their funerals. And so here I am, a year and a half into this, and I've already done 2 funerals for kids that were part of the community, kids that we had an opportunity to love. But from that, the family that the one kid met who passed away from an overdose, just this past Easter Sunday, his whole family was sitting in a pew. They filled up the whole pew. His mom is part of our church now. And the ripple effect that happened to our other kids is now they feel like our church is their church. Our youth group has doubled in size. Matter of fact, parents from the community whose kids are coming to our youth group have been coming to check out our church. They're like, we're hearing my kids going to church. What is this? And one of those families, the same Easter that just passed, one of the dads raised his hand and made a decision to follow Christ on Easter. So for me to see that out of these 2 deaths, these 2 devastating deaths, that Jesus is still being glorified, and that sometimes it's not all about preaching Jesus. Sometimes I think it's about being like Jesus and being his hands and feet. And granted, neither one of those kids said a prayer that we know that said, Jesus, come into my heart. But they experienced Jesus. They knew that we cared about them. They knew that a bottle of cold water, a pizza, or a burger or a hot dog meant that we loved them. And they liked it. And they knew it wasn't just us. And they experienced Jesus through us stepping out and breaking down those walls that we tend to put up so easily. And the fruit from it is people are still coming to Christ. Parents are making decisions to follow Christ. Families are becoming part of our church community. And God is still being glorified. And yeah. So that's what's been happening for us in Long Island. And I guess now the next step for me is discipling all these kids coming in. And so that's kind of the next challenge. And but it's a good challenge. But the biggest thing is when you hear an unchurched kid or a kid that says that they're a pagan or a Buddhist still come to youth group because they feel loved and accepted. I can't ask for anything else. And that's the heartbeat of our youth group and our church.